everyone, it's Mariana and let's talk about John Wick Chapter 2. Keanu Reeves is back in all of his well-dressed and murderous glory, Chad Stahelski is back directing him, and a lot of people die violent deaths, but with really pretty lighting. Sounds like a good start for a John Wick sequel to me. In this movie, we have an Italian crime boss who pays a visit to John Wick and wants him to assassinate someone. John tries to refuse, of course, because he is done with that life, but the Italian hands him a marker reminding John of a blood oath he took a while ago, so things really aren't all that simple, and everything just escalates from there. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while or have been following me on social media, you know how I feel about sequels. I even have a discussion video on this channel about my feelings towards sequels and remakes, which you probably haven't seen because that was back in 2015, but my feelings haven't changed, so if you want to check it out, I will link it in the info box below. I do mention in that video that there are exceptions to the disappointing sequel rule, and after going into John Wick Chapter 2 with quite a bit of skepticism, I have to say that this movie is definitely one of those exceptions. In fact, I thought it was better than the original. One of the things that make John Wick films work is that the people involved know exactly what these films are, what makes them stand out, what kind of effect they're trying to have on the audience, and they basically just full on go for it with a lot of confidence. And no matter what kind of small issues I may have with these movies, I have a lot of respect for that. I also love seeing Keanu Reeves do action, and John Wick as a character is my favorite kind of assassin. He is someone who isn't new to this, he is older, he is well dressed, he has a past, and he is obviously a person of questionable morals. However, he isn't exactly a bloodthirsty maniac who enjoys murdering people. That would be a little too creepy for me. And he's not a happy quipping kind of assassin either. There's definitely a darkness to him, but in a very human way. And at this point, he just kind of wants to be left alone. If you don't leave him be, there are going to be a lot of dead bodies, and you kind of have it coming. What makes John Wick Chapter 2 work really well for me is that it manages to be a really good sequel as well as a really good action film on its own. It respects the characters and the world established by the original, and it builds on that, taking things further and expanding on the already existing concepts. It's familiar because it has the basic things that people loved about the first movie, but it's also its own thing and it's original, and I really wish more sequels were able to do that. Speaking of feeling familiar, I loved the small callbacks to the original that were kind of sprinkled throughout the sequel. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but my favorite one had to do with that story from the first movie about John Wick supposedly murdering 3 people with a pencil, and they kind of refer to that again in the best way possible, and just wow. They also bring the Continental back with Ian McShane, whom I was really happy to see again, and they build on that. We learn more about how this whole secret society of assassins works, which I think does get a little bit crazy towards the end, but it still is very interesting. That is one of the things that I had a bit of an issue with, and I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to tell you exactly what this has to do with, but I feel like if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I do understand that they had to go bigger and they had to show us more, and I actually really appreciate that they introduced new elements into the mix. However, I feel like they went a little bit overboard, particularly in the second half of the movie. I also feel like they could have done a better job tying the first scene into the rest of the movie. It had a lot to do with the original film, but really not that much with the sequel, which I just thought was a little bit weird. I don't know, maybe they will bring it all together in the third movie and it'll all make sense, but at this point it just felt a little bit removed from the main storyline. It just felt like an introduction to remind us what we dealt with in the first film, which I don't think anyone forgot. The action, of course, was fantastic and so much fun to watch. I almost feel like I don't really need to mention this, but I do have to say that it is impressive how they keep mixing things up in a way that keeps the action sequences from getting old or getting boring. They do insert some dark humor in there, which is kind of needed to keep the tone from getting too grim, but it never goes too far and they never try to turn it into a comedy or anything. It just had a well-balanced tone and kept all of the violence as entertaining as it can be in a movie. Basically, if you enjoyed the first John Wick film, you are going to have a ton of fun watching this one. And if you thought the first movie was a bit too ridiculous and you couldn't really suspend your disbelief enough to enjoy it, then John Wick Chapter 2 is going to have the same issues for you. Personally, I had a blast watching it, and it is definitely my kind of sleek but dark and violent action movie. Almost forgot, I am so glad that they hired actual Italians to play the lead Italians in this film, because the terrible Russian in the first movie was just killing my mood. I am not even joking. I'm still not over the whole thing with Baba Yaga being translated into the boogeyman. It was ridiculous. Anyways, John Wick Chapter 2 managed to exceed my expectations. It was a great theater experience, and it was a really good sequel with small issues that really didn't ruin it all that much for me. So I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 2 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely check it out on the big screen if you enjoyed the first movie. That's it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know in the comments below if you've seen this movie. What did you think of it, and which one do you prefer, John Wick or John Wick Chapter 2? I would love to know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!